Amazing news, everybody, on Sunday, but by the time you listen to this, probably on Spotify, it'll all be already be out. It will be my family tree of the Anunnaki, which doesn't sound that interesting until you realise that the family tree goes into Noah, Gilgamesh, and Jesus. So the family tree is absolutely going to be amazing. Hello, everybody. I'm just started this live, so I'm just waffling to myself. So yeah, the family tree. I've finished the video now. Haven't done every single person in the family tree in terms of showing evidence for them because there's a lot, and I I haven't got that long to live compared to the amount of people there are, and the different names and everything else. So what I decided to do for the sort of evidence-based video was pick some of the main characters and then show their counterparts in other countries, so it gives you an idea of why my conclusions are that they are who they say they are, or who I say they are, in foreign countries. So, for example, Marduk, I show the evidence, yay, well done, that Marduk was Ra in Egypt, show the evidence of that. And then off of that, it shows the evidence that Enki was Ptah in Egypt. So not only do you get the family tree on Sunday, you get the backup as to why those characters are who they are, with evidence, as always. So the only thing you don't get this Sunday is the Greek and Roman gods, their names. I will add that as an update. Thank you, Kerry. I just saw your name pop up and I thought, I bet she's going to put a little heart face. Bless you. So yeah, the Norse pop up and I thought, I bet she's going to put a little heart face. Bless you. So yeah, the Norse constantly, just like I do with when I focus on something, that's it. And it's slowly formulating together. So there's definitely two of the Anunnakis that is definitely on the list, on the Norse list. But now I'm formulating who the Valkyrie are, who the frost giant was, who, and it wasn't what you think it is. It's actually an it as opposed to a who, and I don't think anyone else has worked this out. So it's going to be another one of those videos where, hey, our true history's done it again. You can probably guess now by me saying it's an it, and it was before humans and before pretty much everything. So, and it had four dwarfs holding it up. You can probably guess now, guys. If I'm saying that, you can probably think, hang on a minute, four dwarfs? Think, guys. I'm giving you clues here as to why I'm the world's best researcher. What had four... I'm spoiling it for you. Alright, I'm going to tell you guys because you're lovely people. So, what had four dwarfs? Or 4 moons. Nibiru had 4 moons that smashed into Tiamat. So the creation story of the Norse gods, or the Norse beginning, actually has the story of the planet breaking up, but not many, probably 0 people worked that out. So once you realise that the dwarfs are not people, not those ones at the beginning, then it starts to formulate, just like I do with the other things. I know it sounds really big-headed, doesn't it? But when you see the Norse video, you'll hopefully go, it makes so much sense. So you've also got elves, you've got light elves, dark elves, and you've got dwarfs. Now, I'm giving a lot away here, but when you do enough research like I have now, and you listen to some of the very top people that teach Norse mythology, and they're all concluding the same thing, that maybe dwarfs are not actually dwarfs, and they may actually be still part of the basic humans. So I will cover all of that, and I think I know who they are. You can probably guess when there's dark ones. You can probably guess who they are and where they come from, and it even tells you in the Norse mythology whereabouts as well that they come from. So you can probably guess. So yeah, it's going to be an amazing video because, like I say, I don't think anyone's ever connected anything at all to the Norse gods compared to what I will be doing. Now, I will put a caveat at the beginning of the video because obviously I'm not that egotistical to say that I'm 100% right. So I will say these are my views, and I'll try and show you why they're as close as possible. So it's not 100% evidence, simply because the Norse mythology does go off, on tangents at some points, so goes a bit mad. But I think we, at the end of it, when you watch the video, once I've finished it, you'll hopefully all agree and say, okay, that makes sense. That's why the dwarfs, the Valkyries, and there's two types. Don't ask me to pronounce their names. There's two types of gods, two factions, and you can probably guess the two factions as well. So it all makes sense. So it's going to be an amazing video that I hope you all look forward to when it's finished. Again, I don't want to sound big-headed, but I'm very proud, is really the word I'm looking for, of my research into the Norse mythology. Yeah, so, okay, to the questions. Sorry about that, I do waffle on. YOC wrote, hello, Professor, hello, class. Bless you, YOC, hello. Just scrolling down. Lewis has wrote, hello, everyone. Hi, Lewis, nice of you to join. Hope you're well. Scrolling down. Deborah's joined and wrote, hello, everyone. Hi, Deborah. On behalf of everyone, we're all saying hello back. And just scrolling down. Deborah's wrote, hi, Kerry. Sorry, sometimes I try not to read out people's chats between each other, but sometimes Deborah's wrote, hi, Kerry. Sorry, sometimes I try not to read out people's chats between each other, but sometimes tangent. Sometimes, I mean, there's the interesting thing is, I'll give you one more little snippet. 3 characters created. All right, technically the description is that they created humans from driftwood, but it was three gods that done that, which is very interesting, because when you work out who the gods were, you start to think, aha, and they're not mentioned again after that because they're old gods, and we all kind of know the 3 people that was involved. Now, technically there was 4 if you include Enki, but Ningazida did help. So, but wait for the video, because then I explain with man and female, so you can figure out who they are. Sorry, I didn't mean to go into too much on the Norse, but it's fascinating. So hold off, whoop. The video's coming. I'm going to be starting it tomorrow. So I finished the family tree video, so that's all done, ready to release on Sunday. And then tomorrow I'll be starting on. This is what I do on my weekends, and that's pretty much it, really. Jane has wrote, hi, everyone. Hi, Jane. Nice of you to join. Hope you're well, Jane. Jane with the voice, according to Alfredo. Actuals wrote, did you just start? What have I missed? Anything cool? So, no, I've literally just started about 3 minutes ago. I was just talking about the research I've done into the Norse gods, which I'll be doing a video of, and I'll be connecting some of it to the Anunnaki, not deliberately, but it is big. Let's be honest, no race decides to make up a story about gods for the sake of it. You don't. I'm not sitting here going, do you know what? I'm gonna knock up a new god. I'll rephrase that. I'm not gonna conjure up an idea of a new god. So clearly there were you know, especially when they're talking about flying around, the Valkyries flew around and stuff. So when you're talking sort of Superman, but using equipment so that you can rule out Superman when they're riding certain equipment, as chariots is even mentioned once in one of the Eddas. So you can kind of realise that, you know, people either saw or heard the stories of these ancient gods flying around in craft, which makes sense because the Anunnaki did the same thing. So nothing, literally just moderator Kerry has blocked Stephen. So I had a little chat with Kerry earlier on because bless Kerry. Sometimes when, you know, she's very polite to people and says, you know, stop doing whatever it is you're doing, you know, he will read your comments and, you know, don't be rude or whatever it is that the people are doing. And Kerry tries, you know, but what happens is eventually Kerry says, oh, sod it, I'm just going to block them. And then that person then goes away and tries to cause trouble with TikTok with Kerry, which is very sad. So I said to Kerry, listen, I don't want those people wasting my time. So Kerry, absolutely, as soon as you sniff some numpty, just block them. It's easier. Then they don't get so angry. Because I think if they stayed and started getting you guys rolled up, which I think is generally the course of a troll, then when you take them out of the equation, they get upset because I was like, oh, I was really doing well there. I was really annoying people. So Kerry's now obviously clearly just gone for the jugular and done what she needed to. So thank you, Kerry. That was a long-winded way of me saying thank you, Kerry. Robot has wrote, Google says the site is unsafe. That's because I didn't have HTTPS. So fair point, I know. If you used, for example, you can still click, proceed. But if you went on, Opera or any of the others, it's fine. It's only because it costs to have an HTTPS, and I already pay for the website, and that's why I'm doing the Patreon to help pay for the website. So that, but when I maybe next Wednesday when I'm off, I might upgrade to the bloody S thing. So that's all it is. It's the secure because Google a few years back wanted everyone to have the HTTPS, which is basically a padlock symbol to prove that you're secure. I mean, it doesn't prove you're secure at all. There's exactly the same freaking website, and all you do is, for example, I use FastHosts as my website provider. So all you do is you pay them some money and they change it to HTTPS. It's exactly the same website. So it's a bit of a con, really. So I could have whatever I want on my website. Doesn't mean it's secure still, even though I would pay for the privilege of having it as a HTTPS. Exactly the same website, done nothing different to it. So if Wednesday I pay for the S, you'll be able to go on there and you'll say, oh, it's safe now because he's got rid of whatever the virus type thing was. That there is no virus. It's literally just Google wants you to have HTTPS, which doesn't make any difference whatsoever to my website because I'm not going to change the website. So it's just going to have the S at the end of the HTTPS. So feel free to go on there. If you're worried, don't. The videos are on YouTube as well. But no, I'm not trying to scam anyone. So I wouldn't sit here for 5 hours every few days doing these live chats if people come back and said, oh, you've scammed me or whatever. So it's the videos are just there. It was just a way of allowing people to watch my content a lot quicker and easier than going through Google, through YouTube. That was all it was, really, because I put them in categories so you can find them easier and stuff like that. That was it. Actual has wrote, do you subscribe to the idea that the pyramids are actually ancient power plants and were created far, far before the Egyptians? Yes, and no. So the Egyptians, so basically when you break it down, the Anunnaki had human people that could talk 100,000 years ago. We know that because the There's another tale of Adapa which I found recently. This is why I'm constantly learning. So there's one called the Myth of Adapa, and there's another one called the Food. I think it's called the Food of Adapa. And long story short, 100,000 years ago, Anunnaki bred with Homo sapien to create the first Homo sapien sapien. And Jane's muted someone as well, so feel free to do what I said earlier about muting people or blocking them. If they, if you don't like what I'm saying, people, either please move on or show evidence where I'm wrong with my evidence, and I'll point you to the evidence, no problem at all. But, and if I don't have evidence, I'll say I don't have evidence. But I don't want people, being blocked or muted because you're upset. If you've got a problem, just either move along or whatever. But anyway, sorry, going back to the brilliant question. So I'll tell you what, go number 3 in the class for that. Well done, that's a good question. So, the Anunnaki had, for 100,000 years, there were people that could talk. Prior to that, there wasn't. They grunted. These were the Homo sapiens over in pretty much Africa, and then they used some as slaves in Mesopotamia, but they didn't talk to them because they couldn't really talk until the Homo sapiens sapiens came along. And now those ones were around for 100,000 years. The pyramids, from my calculations, are about 10,000 BC, or 9,000, say, BC, after the Great Flood, which some people don't even understand. That when they talk about the Younger Dryas, they don't actually work out that the Younger Dryas was the flood. But that's their problem, not mine. The pyramid. So there were pyramids before that. There were ziggurats before the power plant type ones, and the ziggurats were basically homes for people, or gods, or Anunnaki, whatever you want to call them. So there were Egyptian people prior to the flood. So Ra, I can never remember which way around it is. Either Amun-Ra or Ra was given the territory above. Now I show this in my new video actually that's coming out Sunday, where I prove that Ra was Marduk, and you'll see in the translations of the text it tells you that he was given the particular area. It tells you where it is based off of the rivers and stuff like that, so it was basically Kem or Egypt. So he was given that, but he was given that prior to the flood. But after the flood, obviously he carried on. So that's why there is some pre-diluvial structures there, and then there's some structures after. Now the writing, if you look properly at the carvings on the pre-diluvial or pre-dynastic, should I say? So if that helps you understand, I don't know if you know much about the dynastic side of it, but basically pre-dynastic, in other words, before pretty much any of the other pharaohs came along, the writing on some of those stones was almost laser cut. And this isn't me showing it. You can go look at Brian Forrester's research. He's done a fantastic job. And then after the flood, when people were allowed to be taught how to cut and write whatever they need to write in hieroglyphics, etc., the quality of the writing isn't as good. In other words, humans was doing it as opposed to some sort of technology that was doing it. Sorry, I know I was digressing there. Do subscribe to the idea that the pyramids are actually power plants and were created far, far before the Egyptians. So technically, sorry, I'm going around the houses, but technically the ziggurats were here for a very, very long time. They were here when the Garden of Eden, so we're talking 100,000 years ago. So the pyramids with the power plant type pyramids, yes, after the flood, if that makes sense. I know I went around the houses there, but Lewis wrote, did you point out the 12 main gods? If you're referring to the Norse mythology, no. And the reason for that is because the Norse I'm spoiling it here, guys. You're killing me. From my research, there's only 2 of the older gods, and they weren't even that old. They were younger old gods. So what I believe, and I'm spoiling it here, is that Odin, etc., and Thor and that lot are just Gigi now grown up. You'll see it all when I lay it out in the videos. So you won't have the 12 gods, not like you did with the Greek stories, because the Greeks were actually trying to copy the Sumerian stories. We know that because they talk about the splitting up of the territories, the flood, and the inappropriate way Zeus stroke Enlil got hold of his very young wife, or got hold of a young girl, and blah blah blah. So we know they're referring to the older gods, whereas in Norse there's only a couple of times excuse me, there's only a couple of times they actually refer back to. One is the creation, and one is when they're talking about Freys and Fregs, which technically are one of the same people. If you do enough research now, a lot of the scholars have agreed that pretty much they were the same people. And her brother as well, twin brother. So yeah, basically, long story short, no, there would be never no 12 of the older Sumerian gods there. You'll only have the 2 from my research, but I'm still researching. I'll start the video tomorrow, but I probably won't be finished for a week or so, and so that's given me sort of nearly 3 or 4 weeks of absolute hard research. Never be able to pronounce half the name, hardly any of the names, but so do you talk about how Norse got the info about their gods? I imagine they didn't meet the aliens. So as I just mentioned, those gods were, in my opinion, the Agigi. Not all of the Agigi. Obviously there's 2 factions, and that's why you've got one faction with, I'm spoiling it here, guys, with Freya. I'm not going to tell you her real name, but you'll know who she is, and her twin brother. So you've got that faction, and then you've got the other faction that belongs with who. The ones, the 2 brothers right back. You know that they ended up sort of their family trees ended up disliking each other. So you know who I'm talking about. So I'll cover all of that in my videos. Thank you, Rosie. Sorry, I'm trying to, only because I'm learning all this so I can do a video, and now I'm giving a lot of it away. So forgive me for sounding stupid and not telling you guys. Foff has wrote, hello Foff, nice of you to join. Troy's wrote, what's up today? Anything you want to chat about? I'm all good today. Joy with an E, so forgive me, I don't know how you would pronounce that. Hey everybody, gorgeous day. It was excuse my language, it was raining today. Troy has wrote, we talking emerald tablets? We can talk emerald tablets, quite know them very, very well. Far more than the person, I'm not going to mention any names, far more than another researcher that's written a compendium on it, because when I was listening to, because I had a long journey, I thought, I'll stick someone's review of his compendium on it, another researcher, so straight away that research was rubbish, and so was the compendium. Again, you don't have to believe me, this is my opinion, but yeah, so I can talk emerald tablets. Kerry's wrote, thank you, sir. No worries, Kerry, thank you. Joy has wrote, I don't get PD2. I don't get PD2. Think teehee. Don't know what PD2 means. Sorry, it's not you. It's obviously me. Sorry, I'm being thick as usual. Genex is right. Archer-Harsus. What was he meant when Anu kept air above locked, Nurgle kept Middle Earth locked? Trying to remember which part of that is now. I do remember it, but I'm trying to remember whether that was I think towards the flood, wasn't it? Sorry, I'm just trying to remember. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that myself. Because what they also talk about is, you've probably read it, where they talk about bolting certain things, and you're thinking, because there is one particular passage where they're actually literally referring to a gate where they've got the barley that they brought down from their home planet, and they bolted that area so no one can get in. So that's a bolt, and then there's a bolt as well in the Adapa story, and then, as you say, they up in the air above, they locked it, they bolted it, and so I don't 100% know what the bolt is. Oh, no, oh, sorry. And then underneath you wrote "bolt that bars the sea." That's exactly what I was just saying. Yeah, I don't know what the bolt is. I haven't worked that out yet. So if you can let me know if you come up with any ideas, I'd be more than happy to know. So yeah, I don't know, I'm afraid. Ian wrote, "Hello, it's always so nice to hear you and keep learning." Oh, bless you. I'm so sorry that I do come across ego. I know I do. You know, loads of people tell me now. But yeah, I can't help it. Sorry. Just ignore that. Just know that I'm not as I'm not normally like that. Donna's wrote, "Hey, lovely. Hi, Donna. Nice of you to join." Thank you, Donna. Nikki's wrote, "Hello, everyone." Messy's given me a little. I have no idea what that is. Is that a potato head? Thank you. Janex has wrote, "Were they locking on the humans from moving around?" I don't know. I really don't know. I when I've read that a few times myself, I was like, not quite sure where that's going with that. So I don't know what they mean. So yeah, honestly, if you come up with any conclusion, let me know. I'd love to hear it. Joyce wrote, "Is anyone else getting double talk?" I see. Let's see what people say. Troy's wrote, "We're listening." Maria's wrote, "Evening, everyone." Evening, bless you. Maria's wrote, "Sumerian tablets." Yeah, I refer to the Sumerian tablets. So if you're interested, I can point you to where I researched mine from. As I say, not everything's on the place where I put links, because every day, well, not every day, loads of times I'd find new translations and things like that. So, but yeah, Sumerian tablets, not just Sumerian, Babylonian, and other types. Yeah. Martin's wrote, "What family bloodlines have most Anunnaki bloodlines now?" There's probably other researchers that have done better than me in terms of that. So, obviously, we know that well, again, going back to the Norse gods, believe it or not, they also have a kingship that they pass down in Scandinavia. So, it's... I would say, I've not studied it. I've not studied from, say, for example, from Enoch or Noah or one of those downwards. So that's why I say there's other people out there that's probably done better than me. But my logical guess would be the kings around the world that would have been kingship, because they gave us kingship. They said they gave us kingship, and they gave us crown and scepters, and they told us who. They wrote down what they called the kings list, so we know we got the kings from them. So my guess is that the kings that ruled, even if they didn't understand that they were part of the Anunnaki, such as, for example, Henry VIII. I'm just using him as an example. I don't really know too much about him, but I'm using him as an example. The chances that he understood that his lineage come back from, aliens is probably slim. But there is, I think certainly kingship, and probably higher up Masons were originally. Obviously, some of those probably died now. I say some because obviously, if you go by King Solomon's writings, and if you go by the Norse gods, then some of the Anunnaki were still here. Say 8, 9, 1,000 years ago, 900 years ago, etc. So And of course, if you believe what I saw many, many years ago in a newspaper, I remember it vividly. There was a guy, a builder. I can't remember what page it was in the newspaper, but this was back when newspapers. This is showing you how long ago it was. There was a guy holding an elongated skull, and I read at this point I wasn't a kid, so I think I was probably about 25 or something. And showing me age now. And he was holding an elongated skull, and he was a builder, and he was underneath the Vatican doing some repair work or whatever, and he found an elongated skull, and it was shown in the newspaper. You don't have an elongated skull in the middle of Rome, if that's where the Vatican is. I'm not an expert. When elongated skulls are generally Mesopotamia, Egypt, and Mesoamerica. So to have one underneath the Vatican clearly shows to me that the Vatican has, which we all kind of guessed anyway, but has a strong connection with the Anunnaki. So the answer to your question as well about bloodlines is some of the people in the Vatican probably have that lineage as well. Nikki's wrote, where did all the Anunnaki go during the flood? The actual translations of the actual original tablets. Now, Sitchin does a copy of a copy, or copy of different copies of, different translations. So basically, Sitchin never translated anything himself. He said that. I thought he did, but I came across a video that says, where he actually says, I've never translated anything. Although he can, if he wanted to, but what he wrote in his books was from other people's translations. Anyway, so if you're interested, the translations in the Moorhen collection. So if you bought, I don't know if they do them on audiobook, but the Ryan Moorhen books, they are translations, and they tell you what tablet numbers, etc. Tablets are now in the Columbia University, and in those tablets it tells you that the Anunnaki went up in their ships and looked down at us as the tidal waves and everything swept over the earth. Now, my guess originally when I read Sitchin's version, my guess was, they're up above the clouds. But reading the older, the closest translation, so in other words, not Sitchin's translation of someone else's translation, but the actual translation of the tablets, my guess, especially when you look at the Book of Enoch, when they had at least 6 big spaceships in orbit, it says in orbit, so my guess is that they went up to the ships and was all looking down at what was happening. So they do say they're looking down, so they're in the ships. It pretty much says they're in the ships, looking down at us. So they all left in their craft and whatnot. So yeah, they were definitely up in their ships, but I would say they were in their bigger ships, the ones that were orbiting, like dare I say it, a mothership that was orbiting Earth. Nikki's right. And what did they do with the humans during the flood? So at this point, it's a really good question, actually, Nikki. Go number 1 in the class. It's a really good point, because at this point, some of the Anunnaki were married to the humans, and they weren't allowed to go on the ships. So what happened was the Anunnaki said to those ones that want to keep their wives and their children alive, go to the highest mountains. So not all Anunnaki left. Some stayed down on Earth with their beloved, and then they basically went somewhere that they knew was probably going to be safe. So no, from what I can understand, no humans were allowed on the ships. Now, that's not to say there wasn't any humans already on the ships, working on the ships, because there was. When Adam and Eve was born and they were put on the ships, there were already Homo sapiens, sorry, not Homo sapiens, there was already, original Homo sapiens up there working for the Anunnaki. So, Yeah. Joy has wrote, excuse me, no problem. Joy's wrote, twins normally, just pour it out. See, another reason why I like people watching the videos is because I start from A to Z, and by the time you get to Z, you're like, oh, it makes so much sense. But if I blurt things out, you'll be like, like with who Jesus' real father is. If I said, oh, it's Marduk, typical. It had to be one of the bloody Anunnaki, didn't it? All you ever talk about is Anunnaki. So, it comes across stupid. However, you watch the video and you find out that Marduk's this, Marduk did that, he already tried doing monotheism, blah, blah, blah. And then by the time you get to the Jesus part, you're like, oh, has to be Marduk. So that's why I don't like sort of giving those kind of things out too much either. Sorry. Riri has wrote, yes, but how did Norse come up with their religion? Word of mouth, or did they meet Anunnaki? So, again, spoiling it. So the Ajiji, from my research, seems to be the Odins, the Thors, and all that lot. But there's two older ones, and they were two of the Anunnaki ones. The older Anunnaki. When you see the video, it will cover it all and explain it hopefully better than I'm trying to do here. Dion is wrote, is Enki Lucifer? So there's a misconception that first of all Enki was bad. He wasn't. If anyone was bad, it would have been sort of Nergal, Ninurta, or Enlil. Enki was the one that's tried to save us many times in translations, many times from Enlil. So if anyone was going to be a bad person, it would be an Enlil. However, Lucifer is a translation, a modern translation in the King James, in the New International Version, 1978. They added that word. Prior to that, it was adversary. So you had an adversary to God. Enlil was the Most High, as in the Bible, as in ancient texts. So if you've got an adversary against Enlil, it can't be Enlil. So you'll find that the Anunnakis had adversaries. For example, Marduk was an adversary of Enlil, Ninana, pretty much most of that side of their family, and Ninurta and so on. So he was an adversary. Marduk's brother Nergal was an adversary to Marduk, and so on. So they all had, issues, and even down, going down to Sargon, and the Hittites and all that lot. So there was lots of adversaries. So when you read the original version of the Bible, and I mean the original translation, not any of the others, the only one you need to read properly is Young's literal translation. That's the one that's direct off of the Hebrew as best as it can be. However, if you was to be able to read Hebrew, you would read it, and when they're talking about chariots flying around in the sky and whatever else, and helicopters, you'll realise whirlwinds, you'll realise it's helicopters and all this kind of stuff, which matches the Sumerian tablets as well, with the description of their helicopters called whirlwinds as well. But anyway, so Young's literal translation shows you clearly that the adversaries were people, not the gods themselves, nor not the main gods that they're referring to, obviously. Some of them were gods, obviously the Anunnaki, or some of them may have been demigods down the line. But basically, Satan and Lucifer, bearing in mind Lucifer died as well, if you read the particular passage, he came down from heaven, which is space. So he was obviously one of the Anunnakis, and got killed and was laying there, and it literally, words almost says that it's pushing up daisies. The roots were growing through him and stuff. So he died. He got bumped off. So Lucifer's gone, and Satan was again just another adversary, and the serpent was just another Anunnaki. If you read the book of Adam and Eve, it's book 1, called book 1, Book of Adam and Eve. It says it. It's as clear as day. Ed has wrote, paided to think. Not sure what paided to think means. Sorry, this is live. I read every single question out. Hopefully not say I'm paid to do this to because I'm pointing to where the ancient tablets are. So, if people didn't want me to, if people wanted me to muddy the waters, then I wouldn't be pointing to the actual translations or the actual tablets. BGB has wrote flat Earth or globe, and again in the Columbia University, about 4 times in the whole text, 14 tablets. It mentions the Earth as round or a globe. So, and these are from a species that's coming to Earth or leaving Earth. So when you've got tablets that predate the Bible talking about taking Adapa off to see King Anu on his planet, Nibiru, and Adapa looks back and sees a little ball, you gotta say either these are in Babylonian texts. You gotta say either someone had a hell of an imagination back then and decided that the planet was round for the imagination, or they took him off to another planet and he said what he saw. But I have got a pinned video actually that no one's ever gonna. They can't. Flat earthers, they run when they see my pinned video. So if you're a flat earther, have a watch my pinned video. What I find is the ones that do watch it, they don't answer any of my points because they can't. That the only point they actually asked me, because obviously I ran out of time on that 10-minute video, as maximum TikTok could do. But one of the only points they asked, I think probably the only point they asked, is, well, hang on a minute, how come the stars don't move? And then I say to them, and they I don't think they can grasp the concept of this. I say, go in a car, drive for hundreds and hundreds of miles, staring at the moon. Doesn't move. But look at the trees in front of you. The further away something is, the less it moves. But they don't grasp that. So that's the only argument. So basically, again, I refute that by saying the further away something is, it doesn't move. Just like the moon. And of course stars are even way, way further. So they may be moving, but to us, it looks like they're not moving at all. Of course, you've got to remember the light takes, Christ knows how long to get here as well. So, yeah. Kerry's wrote, is Moses in the tablets? Some Bible scholars believe his story isn't factual. So I did a video on my Patreon page where and it's called who I think Moses is, and it matches the biblical version of where Noah went over to Egypt to help with the 10 plagues of Egypt. And so because it matches that in the ancient Sumerian tablets, you got to ask yourself, was this? And he was sent by Enki, which was one of the gods. Obviously, in my opinion, probably his father. So have a watch of that video and see what you think. I can't hang my hat on it and say I'm 100% right, but it's very interesting. Yeah, and the fact that, yeah, just watch it and see what you think. I might be wrong, but it's interesting. Actuals wrote, something that has been bugging me is, if the civilizations were so advanced back then, why write in stone? I'll give you a little clue. First of all, they didn't always write in stone, because obviously, or clay, because further down the line we ended up with papyrus, which is now, if we're lucky, we can unfold. Now we can actually scan. I don't know if you guys know this. They can actually now scan, only recently in the last 6 months, they have like papyrus, for example, that's rolled up that they found in jars. And they can now actually scan the whole of that and read the text without even opening it, which is phenomenal. but if you try and open it, it breaks up. So I think that's giving you a little clue why. Now, I had a receipt for Grand Theft Auto 5. I booked it a year before it came out, as soon as they said it was pre-release. And then a year later, they put the date back. So for 2 years, I had this receipt in my wallet. When I went there, it was literally... you couldn't even read anything on it. So I know, obviously, you could say, well, there's other inks and other paper and everything else. So there is only really two things, and this is not me saying this is a fact. There's really only two things that last the longest: stone and bone. So when you realise stone and bone last the longest, what would you want to write something down on? Paper, papyrus, or stone? So they are advanced, and they were smarter than us, because we would write it on, paper and regret it. So just look at the oldest Bibles, etc. You have to wear gloves, whereas these clay tablets, a lot of them you can actually read clearly. So and some of these clay tablets have been in fires and all sorts of things, where the library of Alexander and the Nineveh library, where they've been attacked. Imagine if they were paper. So when you say they're so advanced, that is the smartest thing to do if you want something to keep for a long, long time. And clearly it's worked. Clearly it worked. JR's wrote Afriti, and then wrote dimensions of portholes. Not sure what that's referring to. I don't know if I've missed something or you've missed something. So I don't know where that's going with that. Sorry. Rock and Roll was wrote, hi guys, hi Rock and Roll. Message wrote City Friday vibes. Yeah, at work we go Funky Friday, because it's the weekend, and you know what it means for me, the weekend? It means I can work on videos for you guys. JR's wrote, your book of knowledge is weak. Your book of knowledge is weak. I don't actually go by a particular book. I'm guessing you're saying my knowledge, because obviously the terminology that you wrote there seems a bit weak. Oh, I didn't mean to double back on you there. Yes, I did. So I'm guessing you're saying my knowledge is weak. If you could tell me where I'm wrong, if I don't know something, I'll say I believe, or I might be wrong on this. But if I'm pointing to evidence, then you can pretty much take that to the bank, unless you've got evidence to prove my evidence wrong, which you won't have. You won't. No one has. I think the only person that's ever debunked me is me. I did make a mistake once, and I think I misunderstood a word, and Jun X, I think it was Jun X, pointed me out that I was in error. But it wasn't, it wasn't a factual thing. It was just my understanding of a word I got wrong. So my knowledge is, I would say my knowledge is pretty good. And then you wrote, sorry, scrolling down. Then you wrote, curse Anunnaki. You've put ANNUNSAKI. You've had an S in there. I'm guessing you're saying that's the pronunciation of it. I'd like to know more where you're going with that. And then JR wrote Babylon. Is this going to be one of these people that just keeps writing individual things and then eventually gets blocked by someone? Martin wrote, hi, Outro History. Hi, Martin. Nice of you to join. Says live, everybody. I'm reading every single question out, scrolling down. Zah has wrote, they went to fight between them. So I'm guessing that's when I was talking about the Anunnakis having their own battles. They certainly did, yeah. And they sadly used us to fight their battles, which is, I don't know if you guys ever play computer games and things like that, but literally it's like, let's move our army here, and we did it. We went and died for them, which is quite sad. Troy has wrote, that's so cool. I'm not sure what I was talking about there. Nikki's wrote, sir, how did they make the flood? A fair question. Sorry, there's a kettle in the background. So, in the Columbia University tablets, a Shah before, they knew that when the planet goes back round, this is the scientists and oracles, etc., on Nibiru, on their home planet, they worked out that the next time their planet's going to go round, it's going to cause a crap load of problems for Earth. So they let the Anunnaki know here on Earth that the next time it comes round, it's going to cause a problem. So they debated on what to do, and they worked out that the white land, which would have been Antarctica, that's what I think they called it, white land or white land, I think it was. That the ice shelf will break off because they probably already in the many times that their planet had come round, they probably did experience some seismic activities here on Earth. Knowing that it's going to come round, both be as close as they could to each other. Obviously, there was Mars technically in between, not necessarily saying Mars was directly in between, but Mars would have been in between the orbit. So when they realised that the ice shelf, so they monitored it. This is not me making this up. This is what it says. So you can go look up the Moorhen collection. So they monitored it, and when they realised that it's probably going to break off and it's going to cause a flood, they had an assembly. So that's in the Moorhen as well. But you can also look at it on. This is another version of it, same ancient tablets, but written by probably Enki or someone else or one of his scribes. And this is in the Oxford University website. So you can just type in Oxford University website, Sumerian cuneiforms, or just go to my Patreon page, click on the info tab, scroll down, and you'll see I've put the link there for it. So in those tablets, it refers to an assembly that they had, that they all had to agree that they was going to allow the flood to happen and basically whitewash the planet and start all over. Well, technically not start over again, but just get rid of all the monstrosities that Enki had been making, as well as us humans, as well as any livestock that they may have brought from other planets, and so on and so on, or from their own planet. So when the Nibiru came back round that time, because Enki created us and had a fondness for us, and because his offspring was Noah, yes, it was. Again, read the Moorhen collection. So it wasn't Lamash's wife. Lamash wasn't there. So it was Lamash's wife. Bananash, her name is. Anyway, Enki had Noah. And so when he knew the flood was coming, and he wanted to at least keep some of his precious, not experiments, but precious, whatever you want to call us, he told Noah to build an ark. Now, in one tablet, I've read that it was 7 days, but in the Moorhen collection, it was something like 300 years to build this ark. Forgive me, Kerry might know the exact amount off the top of my head, but it was a long time, because I always wondered, even if it was seven days of their time, which will be a month, let's say. I'm just being as long as I can, string it out. I say a month, building an ark the size that it was, and it was a big ark. Totally enclosed and everything else, with levels as well, as it says in those tablets. And don't forget, there's a tablet in the British Museum that explains about Enki telling Noah, explains the size of it, explains what he'll need to use to build it. And that's why it really frustrates me that other researchers, silly researchers, say, it could have been a spaceship. No, we've got the tablet in the British Museum that starts with Enki tells Zazudra, which was Noah, to basically build an ark. So I don't know why these other researchers, they obviously don't research. Kerry's right. I don't remember. No, I don't remember. So no worries at all. Yeah, I think it was 300 and something years, which makes more sense than 7 days or even 40. 40 days or month or whatever, to build this massive ark that did house animals, and the birds went in there naturally according to the tablets. Because I always wondered as a kid growing up, how the hell did they catch birds? Uh, but apparently they went in there naturally, because obviously think of it logically. If it was 300 years, birds would have probably built their homes and nests and stuff. As it was being built, I would imagine, or if it was built way before and wasn't used until the right time, because obviously in tablets it does say on a certain day that you'll be notified to get your family and do a runner, basically. And one of Enki's sons went with him. So how did they make the flood? So it was pretty much a tsunami from the ice shelf breaking off of Antarctica, sliding into the ocean and causing the massive tsunami that they described as high as the sky. Now, it did rain for 40 days and 40 nights, or 7 days and 7 nights, depending whether it's their 7 days and our 7 days type thing. But it did rain. I'm still not quite 100% sure why it rained. Whether it was to do with the water, flooding over land, and of course then, if it was hot, then it would participate into rain, and then, or clouds, and then come back down. So I suppose it's possible that was the reason. But yeah, so that's why Antarctica's now got land there, because obviously it's not an ice, it's actual land in Antarctica. And that's why Admiral Byrd said there's land there. And unfortunately, flat earthers seem to think that it means extra land beyond the dome, which obviously it doesn't. It just means there's land that the American military were certainly going to go and bloody well use. I mean, if I was military, I would have absolutely done that. I mean, we know they did it with the North Pole and South Pole, so it makes sense. Author Susie Cares wrote, I'm very surprised that such an advanced civilization would still have marriage. I tell you what, it's a fair point. To go number 2 in the class, the reason why they probably had marriage was because of the when they had their two factions, one half of their planet and the other half were totally at war with each other for the longest time, until they ended up using nukes and causing a lot of problems. And then they decided that the only way to solve it was to unite the two halves by marriage. And so they, I don't know whether the marriage was before that or after that, but that's when I read about the marriage. And of course, as you rightly say, they had concubines. So in other words, the guys could pretty much do whatever they want, and they could still marry one particular woman and not have any problems doing whatever they want with other women. But as long as they marry one, which to me is a very archaic, to me personally, it's an archaic way of looking at things, because I think it's very unfair, it's unjust, certainly for the women, and so on and so on. But that's where we've got it from, and certain countries still have that kind of non-monogamy civilized culture. So who are we to say if they want to do that, and if they're prepared to do that, then I guess it's up to them. But I'll just stick with my 3 wives. I'm fine with that. I won't want any more. I'm joking. Aura's wrote, why would that surprise you? I can't remember what I was saying. Sorry. You probably waited ages for me to get to that. Apologise. I don't know what I was talking about at that point. This is live, everybody. I read every single question out. Canucks wrote, weren't you making a movie a while ago and it's still going, or no? So the producer that I've got working on it was ill for a long time. He came back from Florida, from America, sorry. He said he had COVID and went into hospital and all sorts of stuff. But I don't know whether it was COVID or not. But so I haven't actually spoke to him for a while. He came out of hospital and said, we have to, chat and everything. But of course I work, so it's difficult for me to. He did send a message. Let me see what his last message was actually. Sorry, I've got another phone that I use. Hi, we haven't contacted Netflix and Amazon Studios. Might be worth contacting them. That was the last thing he sent on Monday. I haven't actually replied to him. So, so he's still on the case, I guess, looking at that. But, yeah, my problem is, because I've been doing, these bloody lives and stuff, I haven't really been helping him as much as I guess I should. So, no, we've still got, he's still working on it, as you see. Carl's wrote, did he just mention Papua New Guinea? I'm guessing you mean Papua New Guinea? Because you put Papua Nurgle. I did mention Nurgle, but not Papua Nurgle. Trinologies wrote, that's why some people say he was really trying. Someone's said that I'm not showing my face. That's why some people say he was really trying to free humanity. That was Enki, obviously I'm guessing you're referring to. Canucks wrote, where did the name Archons come from and what are Archons? So my research, and don't hate me for this, the Archons are baloney. That's just my research. Everything that I've looked into the Archons all leads back to baloney. So it's up to you if you want to go with that. I can't find anything at all that's got any credibility whatsoever. Same as Lemurians and what was the other one? Lemurians and and the Archons. Rosie's wrote, did they have a religion of their own, Galzu, or have I misinterpreted that completely? So the Anunnaki, if they did have a religion, they never wrote it down. They did believe that planets were deities, but they didn't sit there and put a little mat out and pray to them. Or if they did, they certainly didn't tell us. They did believe in a creator of everything, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they worship the creator of everything. I mean, I believe in, free love. Doesn't mean I'm going to worship it. No, but my point is they didn't mention these things, so the logic is that they probably didn't have it, because if they had it, then they probably would have either made us worship the same deity as them, because otherwise if they worshipped an almighty being, let's not call it God, because obviously the Anunnaki's race name was God, but let's imagine there was an almighty being and they worshipped that almighty being. So for them to make us worship them, if they did, which they didn't technically do it that way, wasn't a religion, then surely they would think, hang on a minute, we shouldn't really be getting these humans to worship us. We should all be worshipping the Almighty One, the creator of everything. But again, they didn't do that for us either. And they only mentioned the creator of everything a couple of times. So it's not like a big thing for them. And it was only when they had, one, the dream, and B, the visitation from Galzu, that they believe it was the creator of everything. Of course, we don't even know if there was a creator of everything. They believe there's a creator of everything. The same as we believe. I mean, it's quite strange. We believe there's an almighty being, or some people believe there's an almighty being. Why? Because of bad stories, badly written, based off of something else that actually happened in our past. And so we've got people fighting me now saying, Jesus is this and God's that, and you're, all this kind of stuff. And of course, it's not like that, because we've got the tablets, but we, as I say, there's people that believe. So the Anunnaki could be in error in believing that there was an almighty being. I'm not saying there is or isn't, I'm just saying. So they didn't have a religion as such. They made sure that people worshipped each individual person in their area. So it wasn't like a worship, it wasn't a religion. It was just, I know some people say, well, worshipping is a religion, but if you made Superman kneel before Zod, is he worshipping Zod? Is that a religion? No, he's been forced to, and pretty much the same as what happened to us. Time check from Jane is 8 p.m, so I'm slightly behind, so thank you, Jane. I am reading every single question out. Message wrote outrohistory.co.uk, reads every single question in order. 3 Eastern something time, EST. I'm not an expert on time zones. Urbex has wrote, can I join your live? I have a couple of questions. Unfortunately, I leave that for my Patreon followers. Don't hate me. So it's sort of it sounds bad, but it's sort of like something I give back to them for watching my amazing documentaries that they absolutely love. On my Patreon page, they also get the privilege, which is really sounds so bad, doesn't it? They get the extra bonus, or however you want to put. They get the raw end of the stick by being able to chat to me. I don't know what other way to say it. So forgive me, but if you do want to go to my Patreon page, you'll find over 100 documentaries there with things that no one else has come up with or concluded. Kerry's wrote to thingy, are you an upper tier Patreon subscriber? I don't think she is. But thank you, Kerry, for even asking. Or has wrote, he says it's weak because he doesn't understand it. I'm not sure what you're referring to there. I'm sort of 20 minutes behind, so if you could let me know what I was saying that was weak and that I don't understand, I'll be more than happy to explain my thoughts on why I said whatever it was that was weak. Trinologies wrote, what age did the Anunnaki reach adulthood? Brilliant question. Of course, it's always going to be you with another brilliant question. Go to the top of the class. You knew you save them up. You must do. So I've thought the same thing. There is nothing that I've read to say that they hit adulthood. The only thing I would probably say is that they would have been classed as senior gods after some time. You've got to remember that the Anunnaki technically only live for 120 years themselves on their planet. So it's a good question. I don't really know the answer. I know that they loved beards and they found that as a status symbol. So could it be that once people had got rid of their bum fluff and ended up with a decent beard, could that have been when they were classed as an adult or an older or a senior god? I don't know. That's why I say it's a good question. Unfortunately, I can't answer that at this point. Sorry. John has wrote, who was Noah's father? Noah's father was Enki. And we know that because we've got tablets that predate the Bible. We absolutely do have them. They're Babylonian tablets. You've got to remember, Babylonian came before Hebrew, way before. And those tablets are in the Columbia University. You can go type in Columbia University and type in Sumerian tablets or cuneiform tablets or Babylonian tablets. But then you'll need to read the translations unless you can read the tablets yourself. And Ryan Moorhen and his father translated those tablets. And Ryan's produced books off of those, so it's verified because the tablets are still in the Columbia University, and they were in Liechtenstein before that. So the tablets are real and the translations are real. So when you read that Enki got one of his priests. They had priests. Got one of his priests to call away. I think it was a priest to call away Lamesh or Lachmesh, however you want to pronounce it, to go and do some army work for however long. Long story short, Enki then had his wicked way with Banash, I think her name is. It's all in my family tree that's coming out this weekend, by the way. If anyone wants to see my family tree, it will sadly be on my Patreon page, but for a couple of pounds, it literally is a couple of pounds. I spent more on Greg's today, way more on Greg's, which is, sausage and bean melt. But anyway, so for a couple of pounds, you get the family tree, you get evidence backed up on a video as well, backing up the family tree that's also going to be released. So yeah, Noah's father, which is why obviously Noah came out with white wool hair as described not only in the Bible but also in those tablets that predate the Bible. So Enki was definitely the father. And he had longevity of life as well, which we know. Messy's given my website out, ourtruehistory.co.uk. You can get to everything from there. Thank you so much, Messy. Nikki's wrote, do we have any animals here today that come from the Anunnaki? We do indeed. Brilliant question. Go number 3 in the class for that. We certainly have sheep and we have goats. They are 100% from the Anunnaki. Wasn't here before the Anunnaki got here, and that's why the Bible says, that God brings animals here. And of course, the tablets say exactly the same thing. Many tablets say that they bring the sheep and goats here. They're two definite, 100% definite ones, and both of those have got those sort of funny shaped eyes where they're slit, not like a cat's eye, but an actual just straight down eye. They do talk about bringing some creature from Mars called Lakmu is the name of Mars, but they bring down a creature from Mars, which is interesting, and they ride on them. So, could that have been a horse? Sorry, just about yawn. Sorry, don't all copy me. I know when someone tells me to yawn, I can't help it. Brian's wrote, hello everyone. Hi Brian. Kerry's wrote, no, I read that one. That was pinned. Martin's wrote, was that? Thank you as ever doing the hearts, by the way. You don't have to. I do this because I'm sad, because I enjoy it. Martin's wrote, was that the ark on top of the mountain people go on about? So the actual ark was round. So straight away, if you see videos or pictures of an ark that's like a longboat, like our boats are normally, then disregard that because it was not in that shape. The tablets in the British Museum, I've on my Patreon page, I think I've put the whole description of what was on the tablet, but you can go and watch Ivan Finkel, the curator of the British Museum, read out the tablet anyway. So we know it's round. So whenever people say it's not, it did land on Mount Ararat. That's where it ended up settling. And that's in the tablets again in the British Columbia, in the Columbia University tablets. So we know as well. I think there's a few other places it mentioned it landed on Mount Ararat. So if you think that this thing was big, the chances are they probably used it for firewood and things like that. So I don't think we're ever going to find a big, massive, round ark on Mount Ararat. I think they probably, because it took a year or two for the water to subside, so it's not, and in between that time they planted seeds and stuff halfway up the mountain which should never have been there. According to, this is mainstream saying this, there's plants halfway up Mount Ararat and seeds and stuff and plants that shouldn't be there halfway up a mountain. Now I know you could say, well, birds may have took it, but according to mainstream, not me, they shouldn't be there. And of course, if you think that the Anunnaki stayed, as well as Noah, halfway up the mountain, that would make sense to me. So yes, it did stay there, but B, they probably used it for firewood. They probably used it for shelter. They probably used it for all sorts of things. So I can't imagine it still being there. Trinologies wrote, I want to name one of my children Enoch or Zudra. I pronounce it actually wrong. It's Ziazudra, but that's just me pronouncing everything wrong. So don't ever copy whatever. Don't give your child a name that I've said. Do your own homework and make sure you don't pronounce it really badly, because Everyone will probably laugh otherwise. But that's cool. If you want to, I always wanted to call Clark not Jor-El, Kal-El from Superman, but my ex-wife, as usual, got her way, and we ended up calling him Clark in the end. Trevor's wrote, "Good evening, people. I'm looking forward to the family tree on Sunday. Brilliant. Yeah, it's big. It's and it's not even, it's not 100% finished because I haven't added the Greeks or the Roman counterparts onto it yet. So yeah, and there's a couple more which I'll probably add tomorrow for the NORSE gods. Just a couple extra ones that I think are the right ones. And again, I've already done a video that accompanies that family tree, so you're going to love it, hopefully. I mean, someone wrote when I put one of my videos up. Someone wrote, one of my followers actually wrote, I was just looking at a family tree the other day that was recently put up. In other words, did I copy this other family tree? And I had to write back saying, no, unfortunately, A, I've not seen a new one that's just been put up, and B, any of the others I've debunked terribly because they are pathetic. So the chances are whatever one you're looking at is probably pathetic. Without sounding big-headed or rude or that, they can't be as good as mine. No one... Yeah, so mine's going to be the closest you'll ever get, I think. Unless Trinology or Junex or someone like that does even more research than me. Lewis has wrote, how did Enlil not know about the Ark if it took 300 years? Because wherever it's a fair question, but wherever Noah was building it was not near Enlil. So unless Enlil flew over and saw it, I mean, I drive the same way I go every day to work. There's a particular place that I virtually never go, and it's probably 15 minutes down the road, maybe 20. Never ever go there. Don't like the area, and so I've never been part. I think I had to go there once when the road was blocked off my way. But so all I'm just trying to say is, unless him or one of his messengers was flying around and went over that area, they may not have seen it. But it's a fair question. It is a fair question. I'll tell you what, go number 3 in the class. A lot of people changing positions tonight in the classes. So brilliant questions as always. Nikki's wrote, this is the reason they use today for fake climate change, that the world can flood. Yeah. I mean, they're certainly using the climate change as a way of bringing in laws and stuff. So yeah, I totally agree with you. Lewis has wrote, same with the Tower of Babel. In other words, what you're saying is, how come they didn't know that the Tower of Babel was there? Well, they did eventually. They flew past it and saw it. So it's just a matter of where they were. Now, bearing in mind, the Tower of Babel was in the location that Marduk was god of in Babylon. So would Enki would Ninurta or Enlil needed to fly past Babylon when it was really, it's still big areas. It's not like a small city. We're talking the whole country, the whole Middle East. So I just think they eventually passed and saw the Tower of Babel, and that's when they first destroyed it, and then they went back there another time and totally destroyed it. So I think it's just, it's not like they had roads and everything that they would pass that way every day. So I don't think they went there really. And you've got to remember, even for 300 years, if you look at it from our point or their point of view, it was probably only 6 months, if that, because they slept for 7 days and 7 nights. So, you could say, well, did they not see it for 6 months, which instead of 300 years, which is a fair comment to reply back with. This is live, everybody. I'm reading every single question out. Soraya, I'm terrible at pronunciations. Soraya, forgive me if I pronounce that wrong. So, who was the father of Jesus? So I have done a video. It's on my YouTube channel. It's on my website. It's on TikTok. So if you are interested in watching, I will tell you in a sec. But if you are interested in watching the whole documentary, which explains why it's the person I say it is, with evidence, and I go through the whole lot. No one's debunked it. No one's even said it's wrong. So if you're interested in it, just go to my website. It's a lot easier to find. OurTrueHistory.co.uk. Type in Jesus in the search bar at the top. Scroll down to the one that says who Jesus' real father is. Click on that. Take you to YouTube. And you'll find that my conclusion is it's Marduk. And I base that off of evidence of how Marduk was, what he did, that he already tried it before, that his name was Amen, same as Uman. Amen is the same as Amen. So yeah, not a lot of people know that, but it's true. So yeah, Marduk was the father of Jesus. However, that's not necessarily to say he was a it's not to say Marduk and Mary had time, because if you watch my video, you'll find that I throw in there the old greys, basically, the elongated skull aliens, which you're going to think, well, hang on, how's he added that in there now? I could just about believe Marduk, nabbing a human woman and having his wicked way, but why does the elongated skulls come into it? And that's why the video is really important that you watch that, because it covers the Tutankhamun bloodline as to why Marduk did what he did with Jesus, as well as the Aten. Go watch it. It covers it all. Sorry, it's very hard to say, but it does cover it. Author Susie Cares wrote, "It sounds like the Anunnaki were a patriarchal society." Is that correct? Is that accurate? Yes, it is. Yeah. Yeah, as not to say, the mothers didn't have a place. It's pretty much like it is in certain Western countries now, where the males dominate. I mean, pretty much around the whole planet. Sadly, the males seem to dominate as opposed to the women. But in terms of the royal bloodlines, in terms of any bloodlines that were written down, it would be so when you see my family tree, that it may say mother of, and that's because they don't write about the mother on some cases. I looked and looked and looked, trust me. So in some cases, it could have just been a concubine or whatever. So women certainly weren't seen in the way that I think women should be seen, but they weren't. But like I say, that it's not to say that they didn't have their roles. I mean, Nimna, who ended up being called Nharsag, she was classed as a mother of earthlings, or Mother Kai, Goddess Kai. No, she wasn't. That was Namna. Sorry, that was getting mixed up there. Namna was, you'll see on the family tree, Namna was Goddess Kai. Nimna was, respected as the mother of us. But sadly, move along from there, and then it's men everywhere you go, unfortunately. So yeah, sorry, it's their fault, not ours. Trinologies wrote, some horses have evolved to have human-like pupils now. Why? I do not know that. I don't know the answer to that. So if you watch my mermaid video, I show that the Anunnaki used these horses that had a sloped back, and I show evidence that the horses, we found the skeletons of those horses with sloped backs, and that mainstream scientists say that these were hybrid creatures, which is very interesting. If the horses were from Mars, because of the elongated slit eyes, and the fact that the Anunnaki admitted riding them, could they have been the sloped backed ones to start with? Because when you look at the carvings in the British Museum of them with horses, they were on the slope-back ones, or they had the slope-back ones pulling chariots. Not the spaceship chariots, but proper chariots with wheels. So, yeah, so it's a good question. But I don't know the answer about that I have human pupils now, so I've not come across that, so I can't put you in a different position in the class. But it's interesting. It's something I'll hopefully come across one day. Maybe you could look into that before me. Martin's wrote Ark, I meant. Was a typo. Yeah, I guess you meant Ark. Canuck has wrote, what do you know about the Emerald Tablets of Thoth? What don't I know? So I have done videos on my Patreon page explaining about the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, explaining stuff that people probably don't understand. Not saying they don't understand, you know what I'm saying. It's not me being big-headed, but obviously I've read them cross knows how many times, and I've worked out things that no one else has worked out in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. So when you say, what do I know about it, I could go on for a long time. The only thing I would suggest, if you do read them, don't listen to other people. Don't listen to Billy Carson. Don't listen to other researchers. Read them yourselves. The only thing I would say is, when it gets to the point where he's dreaming and stuff like that, ignore the dream parts. That's just literally him having a dream. And it's like me telling you my dream. You'll be like, after 5 minutes, you'll be like, yeah, all right, boring. Get back to the real stuff. So that's the only thing I would say if you're going to read them yourselves. Scrolling down. This is live, everybody. I read every single question out. Avatar has wrote, hi, was getting Tiger ready for soccer practice. Oh, soccer. Woo, football. So we know where you're going with that one instead of football. Avatar then wrote, hi, everybody. Hi, Avatar. Canucks wrote, how old are the Emerald Tablets of Thoth? So the actual tablets are not around anymore. The actual supposed green tablets are not around anymore. That's not to say that they weren't around in the first place. There are different translations of them. There is the one that I thought was the oldest was from the 1200s, which was a translation in Latin. However, apparently there is an older translation, another few hundred years older than that. Needless to say, if you've read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, when I was talking about I was getting mixed up with Book of Enoch. When I said about the dream, forget that. That was Book of Enoch, not Emerald Tablets of Thoth. If someone asked me that, sorry, I got mixed up there for a sec. How old are they? Yeah. So basically, whoever wrote the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, regardless of the translations, knew stuff. Really new stuff about Egypt, new stuff about pyramids, new stuff about dates, and new stuff about spirits, and new stuff about the universe. So whoever wrote it, even if it was the 1200s, had a far greater understanding than you guys reading it now, and me. So from my point of view, it has to be old enough to have been around with the name Thoth, because you've got to remember Thoth ended up becoming Hermes over in Greece. So my take on it, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth would have probably been maybe 5,000 years, 6,000 years old at the earliest. The latest, it would have been 9,000 years ago. And the reason why I say that is because when you look at obviously everything happened after the flood in terms of them being taught things, that people started being taught over in and then when you realise that the Atlantis was sunken approximately 8,000 BC, which matches the dates that I'm just talking about, then Thoth left there and went to Egypt. So if we've got a date now, and then if you start looking at what people's mainstream say about mummification, because obviously the Emerald Tablets of Thoth do talk about spirits and how to communicate with the spirits, dead people, not just dead people, but actual entities themselves, not the people that join with them. If you read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth enough, you'll realise that he's not talking to a dead person, he's talking to an entity that joins with dead people. So that's another reason why I think that they're, our spirits are just long story, but yeah. So going back to the answers to your question is in between sort of 8,000 BC and 5,000 BC. Martin's wrote, do you think Scientology is the closest religion? There's 4,000 religions at the moment, so for me to know every single religion out there, I can't say 100%. There may be someone that's got it spot on out of 4,000, but I've not studied or looked at all 4,000 of them. But Scientology, he had the foundings of what went on, which is fine because the tablets were found over 200 years ago, and B, just over 100 years ago people were translating them and writing them into books. So all Hubbard had to do was read one of these books and go, oh my lord, wow, okay, we were seeded here by aliens, or not necessarily seeded, but we was created by aliens. So he starts up and tells people want to know more. He doesn't have the rest of the information because he's not got the internet and he hasn't got other people's translations of it at that point. So he makes up stuff, and that's where it goes a bit wrong. So he had the foundations right, I think, but just lied, because when people say to him, so what happened to these Anunnaki? What happened to these aliens? And so of course he doesn't know the answer. He doesn't got internet, so he makes up stuff, and people go, wow. Whereas I won't make up stuff. So yes, as far as I'm aware, he would have been the closest if he didn't deviate and make stuff up. Message wrote, the Patreon page is worth it. Patreon Outer History. Oh, thank you. I hope you like the new stuff this weekend. Nikki's wrote, I lost my number one in the class. Good question. Sorry, yeah, but you get pushed down to number 2, so it's not a bad thing, but at least you was number 1. Sorry. It's just the way it works. I can't remember who I give these positions to in the class, so it's never personal. So sorry. Rosie's wrote, Mo not sausage, and I'm guessing you mean no not sausage and bean, melt cheese and onion pasty all day long. I'm guessing you're from England then. The old Greg's sausage and bean melt. Yeah, their pizzas ain't too bad either, the slices. Soraya, I tell you what, my bloody Greg's is stupid, isn't it? Literally, people walk in and steal stuff because they have everything at the front and the counter at the back, and they just walk out. It's like crazy. Soira has wrote, what kind of creature is an Anunnaki? So an Anunnaki is a 8 to 12 foot humanoid character from a home planet in our solar system. Their home planet's called Nibiru. NASA called it Planet X originally. We know all of this because they actually tell us in their tablets that predate the Bible. The Anunnaki look like us, and that's because we were created in their image, in their likeness. Now, if you wait for it, guys, on Sunday, on my video that's released to accompany the family tree, you will hear that the female, the very first, well, actually it was Tai. You'll hear that Eve, not the very first female, but the second one that we're all aware of. So Eve, in other words, you'll hear the translation from the Moorhen collection where it says she's in our likeness, and in other words, she looks like, yeah. So basically we've got carvings of them, tens of thousands of carvings of the Anunnaki. They are not reptilian, even though some numpty earlier on was telling me they're reptilian. Not on this live, but on a thing, and I said, show me the evidence, and then they just liked my question because they realised they probably couldn't show me evidence that they were reptilian. So yeah, we've got tens of thousands of images of them. They have beards, they braided their beards, they have white hair, white beards. Some may have had red hair. And blue eyes, pale skin. Just basically, the Sistine Chapel, I think it is, that has Jesus, God touching a human hand. That's pretty much your God. They're carved. You can see what they look like. And they did fancy our women, which is interesting because you've got to wonder how ugly were their women if they have to go with human women, which are only probably 5 foot tall. Or are they just, sick individuals? I don't know the answer to that, but I think our women are lovely and probably better than the Anunnaki women. Nikki's wrote, oh, fantastic, my father is a shepherd to the alien creature. That's that's why the our Father who art in heaven. Who art in heaven, in other words, who stays in heaven, really? And who's got a spaceship in heaven? Or who comes from heaven, space? The Anunnaki, Enki, who would have been our father. Jane's wrote, time to 8:30, so I'm still behind, thank you. Jane, as always. Larry's wrote, is the Earth flat? No, just watch my pinned video on Flat Earth and you'll see the answer to that. And then read all the comments and you'll realise that no one's going to debunk any of that. Because basically I totally debunk all the evidence that the Flat Earthers have, or as much as I can in the 10 minutes. And that goes from Admiral Byrd right round to NASA faking stuff. And that's why no one's ever going to come back and argue with me. It's over. Game over. I win. Brian's wrote, if I had a child... Yeah, I am egotistical. If I had a child, I'd give them an Anunnaki name. Ah, Brian. Well, you never know. One day you might meet the right person. Brian's wrote, like Ninurta or Nimna, if a girl, laugh out loud. Ninurta. Yeah, it's a cool name. Yeah, I can see... People might have trouble spelling it, but yeah, it's cool. Nikki's wrote, my child is called Draven. I am in love with his name. Draven, that's a cool name. It's very sort of oldie-worldy, isn't it? Draven. Hey, Draven. Yeah, very cool. I like that. That's a cool name. Where'd you get that from? Larry's wrote, thanks, no problem at all. This is live, reading every single question out. YOC's wrote, are the 10 Commandments on the tablets written as the Bible, or were the words changed as well? So there's a researcher out there, he's on YouTube, that can read Sumerian cuneiform. I don't know if he can read other languages, Babylonian or whatever, but anyway, and so he said that he read part of a tablet that he believes was tablet 1 of the 2 tablets, and at the top of it started with Enki, which is interesting because there's a tablet in the British Museum that talks about the Noah's Ark starts at the top in the same place where this guy said the other one was, with the word Enki. In other words, it's probably like, if you write a letter, or we put a date stamp at the top, or we normally write the date at the top. It looks like Enki writes or gets Enki's name put at the top before it goes on and actually talks about whatever it is it's supposed to be talking about. So I don't know, because obviously no one's got the full original tablets that I'm aware of. So I haven't really covered the 10 Commandments in terms of who would have been the one to tell Moses. Now, if I'm right in my video on my Patreon page on who Moses is, then it would have been Enki, and Moses would have been his father. Enki would have been his father. And the funny thing is, in the story of Adam and Eve, the proper story, not the Bible story, but in the tablets that predate the Bible, Adam and Eve were born to dawn and dusk. That was the names that Enki gave the 2 females that gave birth to 2 of his children. These were 2 human women, Homo sapiens. He had his wicked way with these Homo sapiens. 9 months later, out comes a boy, out comes a girl, which are now demigods, because they are now an offspring off of Anunnaki and humans, and that's where we start getting the pale skin, the blue eyes over in Middle East with the Rh negative blood. Anyway, because he shouldn't really have had them as children, what he got his vizier to do was put them in baskets, sail them down or pretend they were sailed down the river, and find them. So his vizier went out, brings them back into the, into the castle type thing, or palace. Well, it was a ziggurat at the time, I think it was. We've got watch my Garden of Eden video on my Patreon page. I show evidence that it was a ziggurat based off of satellite images. Anyway, and that was in Eridu, which is exactly where he was. So yeah, anyway, they bought these. So he told Enki that you've got 2 kids. So he brings them in, and everyone's like, oh wow, look, and he says, oh, these are different. These are slightly different. And as they start growing up, he's like, oh, these live longer and everything else. So then he took them off to his spaceship, which sounds really stupid, but go watch my Garden of Eden video. You'll see that the evidence there, for 24 years. And then eventually he brings them back down to his palace, where they have their own adventures out in their garden. But that wasn't the garden. That was the second Garden of Eden. Yeah, so it's all covered in my videos as well. So anyway, going back to the Bible with Moses in the basket, Enki had already had done the basket routine with. So if Moses, bearing in mind he did apparently have glowing skin, etc. Now I know some people say, well, he only got the glowing skin when he went up and spoke to God, but chances are he probably had pale skin already. But yeah, the basket thing leads me to believe it was Enki doing it again. YOCs wrote by man. I'm not sure what that was referring to. Avatars wrote, there is no time. One never-ending, eternal family incarnation at will, here now. You could be right. Sean Downings wrote, thank you, Trudy. Oh, thank you. Sean's wrote, did the Anunnaki worship anyone? Not that I'm aware of, no. They mentioned planets as deities, and they mentioned, which is why when you watch my Norse video when it's finished, you'll realise that everyone else that's been looking at the Norse mythology as humans, the giants and the Bifrost and the waters and all this stuff. When I was researching it was like, no, I know what that waters are. I know what that is. So I think my Norse video is going to be one of a kind as always. I might be completely wrong, but everything's matching that I think is matching. Avatars wrote Marduk is fun. And then Sawyer has wrote Marduk Amon, correct. Avatars wrote nada, nothing, we're all woman with a B, womb, as in woman's womb. Avatars wrote, I've got ice cream cone, Dad. I did have a word with Clark tonight and said, don't come out. Avatars wrote, why do you think kings beheaded their wives? I have no idea on that. Probably power trip, maybe. Keep the others in line. I don't know. Maybe there's another researcher out there that looks into that side of it. It's a good question though. Canucks wrote, the Emerald Tablets speak of the Archons, those who hide in shadows, which you say do not exist. I know. I have no evidence of the Archons whatsoever in terms of aliens. So I still don't know what they are. If they're real, I don't think they are. you got to remember we're reading translations off of tablets. And when you read translations of tablets, unless you can sort of verify them like I do when I do my tablets, when I talk about them, I say, well, okay, we've got the carving of Enki, so that makes sense, and da-da-da-da. So I can marry up the things that I say, but when you've got something that's a translation that's got nothing else other than people nowadays talking about it, it's like flat Earth. People talk about it as if it's real, but people say, show us a picture of the globe, and I say it's easier to go to the edge and take a picture of the edge than it is for me to get a spaceship and go up into space. So could you show me the edge? Someone's got to flew past the edge or sailed it, and of course they can't. So that's why I say there's nothing there for me for the Archons, because there's still nothing there. I think it's baloney in terms of them being aliens. Now, if it was translated to something else like jinn, then I would have said, aha, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, we've got exorcisms that can match with the jinn and da-da-da. So, to be honest, I can't remember the Archons. It is in the Emerald Tablets, to be honest. I'd need to reread them. I have read it quite so many times, and I don't recall reading that, but I might be wrong. Canucks, I've read someplace that the Emerald Tablets are well over 20,000 years old. That wouldn't be right, because it talks about chem and the certain places and stuff like that, and 20,000 years ago, it talks about the black-headed people. I can't see it myself. I wouldn't have said it was. That doesn't match the time frame. Because Thoth wouldn't have been an Atlantean at that point, because we've got his temple that's sunk in the city, which is called Heraclean now. So again, he wouldn't have been. Technically, it was at the top of Egypt, but I don't see that. I can't see that. The problem is, because we don't have the original tablets, people can say any date. I could say a date, and I could be well wrong. They could say a date, and they could be well wrong. But I don't see it from my side of it. Brian's wrote, flat earthers don't have any evidence. And I know, I do say to him, show me a picture of the edge. Tell me one person that's been warned off. Name them. Show me their live stream. Show me footage of them as they were recording it, as military flew over and said, leave this area now. Zilch, none. Brian Johnson's wrote, I'm married. Oh, sorry, Brian. Okay, yeah, well, if you get a dog, then you can call it Ninurta. James wrote 9 p.m, time check. Thank you, I'm catching up now slowly. Thank you, Jane, as always. Andrews wrote, good evening, everyone. Hi, Andrew, nice of you to join. Aaron has wrote, disclosure is happening. Not by mainstream. If anything, it's by, Secure Team 10 or Stephen Greer and people like that. But it's not going to, there's no way the elites are going to allow us to know that, aliens abduct people and that they allowed it. Because as soon as they admit that, then the Grenada Treaty would be thrown out there and people would be going, oh, well, I want compensation. People have asked for a lot older compensation for things way back. So it's not. They're not going to do it. They'll lose so much power. BSK has wrote, question: what differences does this make whether you are right or wrong? What will you gain, and how this changes anything? So it's a fair question. So if I'm right, and the evidence that I point to is correct compared to the zero evidence that people's got of an almighty being that's in the Bible, then it explains why we have the different blood types, the Rh negative. It explains why we suddenly have pale skin that we shouldn't really have because shouldn't be near the sun because the Anunnaki. Proves then that aliens are real, and it proves that the god system that we have was a race called the gods, as stated in their tablets thousands and thousands and thousands of times. And the people that claim to speak to God are probably not actually correct. And the people that spend money on going to church and giving them to evangelists or giving them to churches or religions is kind of just feeding greedy people. So it does make a lot of difference, really, because those people might be poor and giving their money and time to preachers at the top, standing on top of a stage going, Jesus loves you, he's going to come back when? He's going to come back when... Don't ask me that question. I don't know when he's coming back. He's going to come back soon. Well, why didn't he come back when World War 1 and 2 was happening? Shh. Let's move on from that. What's he going to do when he comes back? Ah, my child. What's he going to do? He's going to... I don't know. So he's going to do nothing when he comes back. Well, he might have a cup of tea and... Is he going to sort out our elites and take them out? No, he won't do that. So what's he going to do then? Well, actually, he's probably not going to do a lot. Give me my money back then. And so, these people will about eat then, instead of giving their money to churches. So, yeah, it's a big thing. It's very big. It's probably the biggest thing in history, because if you say God is the biggest thing in history, and that we find out God's an alien, then that's the biggest thing in history. So it changes everything, really. It changes literally... how many religions are there? 4,000 religions? All of them will just drop suddenly. So the whole system will change. Avatars wrote Travis and Tiffany. Canucks wrote Archons are those that exist on an alternate frequency, ? Not necessarily aliens, but could be. Could be the Emerald Tablet state that they were written 36,000 years ago. So I say with the dates, there's no... My logic, knowing, the fact that people were mummified, after the flood, as opposed to before the flood, that we've got any evidence for, not that saying that mainstream tell us everything anyway. And the fact that the pyramids do seem to be dated... around the same time as just after the flood, and the tablets say that the pyramids were built, or at least the main pyramid, Khufu's, was built after the flood. I think if Ningazida Thoth built any pyramid to do as it mentioned in the Emerald Tablets, I think it would have been Khafre's pyramid, which is the middle one, because the small one seems to be a copy of the larger one, just as a test, which it said anyway in the tablets that they did a test. So I think the Khafre's pyramid, the middle one, would have been the one that he used to go into a trance or whatever he needed to do in order to have an out-of-body experience. And again, that would have been after, because if you look at where the Great Pyramid is, that's smack bang on literally the middle of ley lines, in the middle of called the navel of Earth, according to them. So why wasn't Khafre's pyramid put there first? If it was going to be anywhere, it would have probably been put on there and not right next to it. So everything leads me to believe no, it's not that old in terms of the tablets. Read that one. Aaron's wrote Richard Doty admitted it in Unacknowledged. Admitted what? Sorry. I'm just going back to see what you mentioned. I'm just trying to find what you mentioned earlier. I can't find it. It's going quite far back. Sorry, yeah. Let me know what you mean when you say Oh, right. Sorry, then you wrote underneath. Richard Doty was a government misinformation plant who recently revealed all. Yeah, I think David Grush is as well. I think he's misinformation. I think he's trying to gather the information from Stephen Greer to find out what he knows. Avatar's right, he's going to go to Disneyland. I'm guessing that's your boy. Andrew's right, I agree the elites try to keep us in the dark like the mushrooms feeding, hiding the truth. Yeah, I can't read that word, the little symbol out. Oh, bless you. Okay, I've actually caught up. Shadows wrote, you skipped my question. Shauna's wrote, you skipped my question. Sorry. Let's have a look. Oh, yeah, I did actually. Sorry. What is the future of our planet is written in the tablets, like the Great Flood. So if you go by the tablets saying that the planet comes around every 3,600 years, if you go by Ragnarok, which I know sounds stupid, but Ragnarok is actually talking about the same thing, about the planet coming around and causing disasters on Earth. And I think the snake, the dragon type thing in Ragnarok, I'm spoiling it all for you now. You're gonna just is not a dragon that's around in Earth. It's the planet, and if you know anything about dragons, you know that they're normally a comet, or were called comets. That's not necessarily to say that every one of them is a comet, but so when Nibiru circles round, or possibly a meteorite circles round Earth, that was probably what the Norse gods were talking about. Anyway, I'll cover that all in a video, but yeah, we're going to have it again. We will have it again at some point. Maybe not in the next time it comes round. Maybe not next. Could be 50,000 years before their planet comes round close enough again to cause that sort of catastrophe. But it will happen. If it's happened before more than once, then it's going to certainly happen again, I think. But we ain't going to be here. Our ancestors, if we're lucky, if the elites don't get their way, our ancestors will still be here, humanised, hopefully, not chipped up like they want to do. Yeah, it's sad. So there's nothing written per se other than what's already come is going to come again that I've read. So I apologise that I didn't see us. Aaron's wrote, true, could be a plant. That was David Grush. Yeah, the alarm bells rang for me the day after the. So David Grush was the guy that was helping Stephen Greer try and get disclosure out there, even though he's not actually seen anything himself. He's all third hand. But when he came out in a newspaper saying the day after the Mexican alien mummies are fake, and he's got no knowledge of them whatsoever, and it's just his opinion, and he's the guy that's coming out saying aliens are real with Stephen Greer, and he comes out with that, my spider senses tingled like mad. And so I looked into him, and I write, and you'll find out soon my findings. Messy's wrote, have you researched pyramids or ruins of Tulum, Mexico? A friend of mine just visited. If I have, it's not something I remember vividly, so I apologise. There's over 1,000 planets around the world, pyramids around the world, so forgive me, I've not studied that one. But if you can tell me anything about it, I'd love to hear. Average Shara's wrote, so you think there could be another polar opposite version of yourself that you may meet someday? I don't think so. I think there is probably another dimension, but I don't think there's different permutations of every time we think something differently, another universe suddenly pops into existence and so on. So I don't think that there's a spider pig out there or Miles Morales or whatever they're called. Yeah, so I that's just my opinion. Obviously, I don't know one way or another, but the logic is everything's in the universe. Everything's done to the best of its ability without waste. So when you look at an alternate universe, that seems to be a waste, in my opinion. So I can't see a double universe or more than one of exactly the same sort of thing, if you get what I'm saying. Coates just wrote, is Nibiru causing climate change? It's not here. You got another at least probably 500 years, give or take. So no, climate change does happen. If you read the Sumerian tablets, they were here for 450,000 years. There's a few times that it went very, very cold, and they were in Africa and they were in the Middle East. So if it got cold there, then things come round and go cold, and then obviously it got hot again. The logic is, what we spray in the atmosphere, what we drink in the water, and the water goes up to the clouds and then comes back down. It's not helping our atmosphere. That's a logical conclusion. I mean, it's not like we're doing it any favours. We're not. The fires and the smog that we push up into the atmosphere and the ozone and whatever else. So we're not doing it any favours. But sadly, the elites are absolutely using this to force their agendas on things. Sorry, Shaquille, who wants to be invited into the live. I do let people in, but unfortunately you'd need to be a Patreon user, which gives me the perfect opportunity to mention my Patreon page and my website. Website totally free of charge. Go there, watch videos, live chats, recommendations on books and things that I think. And then on my Patreon page, I have the longer edited documentaries that I make that cover all sorts of things, like 3-hour documentary on spirits and mermaids and Anunnaki proof evidence that they were really here and that they were the gods in the Bible. That's about 3 hours long as well. Easter Island, the Stonehenge, things that you'll never ever come across. No one does the sort of research that I do. Without sounding big-headed, I'm just advertising how good I am. Someone's got to. Feel free to watch my videos on my website, outruehistory.co.uk. You get to everything from my website. Martin's wrote, what do you think of the pyramids were for power generation? That's the $1 million question. It has to be. So it's a good question. Go number 2 in the class. It has to be for the Anunnaki only. Because unless mainstreams hid devices that would have required power, then it would have been only for the Anunnaki, their craft or something like that. And chances are, it probably would have been for their what they call the barges up in space. They had at least 6 of them, as mentioned in the Book of Enoch. So those ones don't seem to come down to Earth. These are big ones that have little ones flying out from them, as per Book of Enoch. Literally, you read it. They fly off towards the stars. It says it. That's the words. Little ones fly off towards the stars. So I can only assume the power was pointing upwards to power something of theirs, such as a craft. I can't see us, unless there was devices in their ziggurats, for example, or in their palaces that required power that they took back with them that we haven't found, or we may have found it, but of course hidden from us by mainstream. So, but I don't think it was for the everyday person that was, out there. So yeah, because obviously we've got nothing. Just if they all had light switches in their houses, I would have said, aha, they use them to power things. But so I think it was Anunnaki or demigods, pyramid, ziggurats or temples, or their spaceships. Sean has wrote, but didn't Nibiru cause the Great Flood, or was it a natural occurrence that the Anunnaki knew was coming? So in the Columbia University tablets, a Shah before, so 3,600 years after they come round, their scholars and their oracles, etc., said, next time we go back round, we're going to be even closer, Earth will be close, and we're going to cause a hell of a lot of problems to Earth. And so they told. So basically, the flood was because of Nibiru coming round closer than ever before. Canucks for April the 8th has not only eclipse coming, but also the winged comet 12P Pons - Brooks, aka Devil's Comet. You got me on that one. I'm not aware of that, so thank you for that. Andrew wrote, exciting outer planet configuration in next few years. Uranus, Neptune, Pluto triangle of 24 to 27. Yeah, the Anunnaki did talk about. I read somewhere that they talked about the alignment of the planets at one point when they all seemed to be in line. I don't know whether that made any difference to Earth or not, but at one point there was. According to them, Message wrote, if Clark is behaving, maybe you could let him say bye to us when you leave. Yeah, the reason why he's behaving is because he had a little tantrum yesterday and threw his phone on the floor hard. He threw it on my bed first, and I said, you do that again, do it on the floor, Clark, and you'll break it. And the little bugger threw it on the floor as hard as he could, and he broke it. So he went to school without a phone, and now he's being good, because I said to him, you have to be good to possibly get another phone. So I will go and say that just before I leave then. Thank you though. Checkers wrote, we can't be the only planet with life on it in vast ocean of space. So if you've not heard me before, check. If you're interested in seeing the evidence that the Anunnaki were the ones in the Bible, go to my website, outruehistory.co.uk. Trust me, it's good. Scroll down on the home page. That's all you have to do. Nice and easy, to where in the big letters says click here. Click that and you'll see that there's an alien race that came here that we look like in their image. You'll see all the evidence. And then you'll realise that, yes, there is other species out there that's flying around. Kingies wrote, what happened at the Grand Canyon? You'll find out very, very soon. Very soon. Oh, changing the subject. The author of the book, the 2 books that's already out, brilliant books, you should read them. Black Ops, Alien Spirits, Bigfoot and Our Untold History. And his second book was called, off the top of my head, Atlantis, Mermaids, Pixies, Giants and Our Untold History. Has now got the title and finished the book. He's working on the audio book before it's all released in one go. He's chose the title, and it was thanks to you guys for helping me that time. Because he asked me to ask you guys, so I did. And so the title will be revealed very, very soon. Probably the front cover as well, knowing the guy that's doing it, because he's very multi-talented. He's far better than I am. So, yeah, the Grand Canyon. Funny enough, I think the Grand Canyon's in that book as well. So if you hold off, you'll get all the answers you'll ever need on the Grand Canyon. Sorry if I can't tell you myself, but I know the author's done an amazing job on the Grand Canyon. You'll be like, wow, 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 as you read it, just like you do with all the other books that he's written. Genius. Sean has wrote, so when's Nibiru coming next? My calculations was between 300 and 700 years, give or take, I think it was, and Sitchin's was 500 to 900 years. So, thank you, Kerry. I will praise you when the book covers comes out. Canucks wrote, here in Canada, they are keeping kids home from school, and in America, they're issuing strange warnings. Yeah, it's all... if you just take a step back and you just realise what's happening, you can see it as clear as day from my point of view. And it's so far, you go back and listen to my older lives from 2 years ago, everything that I'm saying is still coming true. Canucks wrote, for the eclipse event with the comet. I'm guessing that was finishing off something that you said earlier. Martin's wrote, do you think the xenon gas on Mars was a result of nuclear explosions? So according to the tablets, they had to use apparatus to breathe. Now, it's not to say that a different species might not have been able to breathe on there better than the Anunnaki. There was water on there, and there would have been plants and food on there. And there probably was animals, because they say they brought animals from Lachmo. So these animals obviously breathed better than the Anunnaki. Luckily, Earth matched the breathing of their home planet, certainly enough to survive here long enough. So anything on Mars would have probably been done either before the Anunnaki got there, because there was no explosions that they mentioned, and there was no benefit to having explosions on Mars. There was no reason for the Anunnaki to go up there and blow up either their own Ajiji or blow it up after the Ajiji were there. I guess the only reason they could have probably done that was maybe the equipment that was on there, because of the dust storms. Basically, they left equipment on there, came down, stole human women, as it says in the Bible. This is the Ajiji. And then they said, oh, we can't go back to Mars because of the dust storm. It's covered over everything. So is it possible that there was some tech there that they decided to nuke in order to stop anyone else from getting the tech? I guess it's possible. But I can't see the Anunnaki blowing it up for any reason whatsoever. So it was either done before the Anunnaki got there, or after. Now there are the tunnels on Mars. I don't know if you guys have seen that. The glass corrugated tunnels that were subterranean but seem to have been uncovered by dust, etc. and that. Now you could argue that actually could have been the Anunnaki's tunnels that wasn't subterranean but was covered over by the dust storm that lasted a very, very, I mean, we're talking hundreds, probably thousands of years. So could those tunnels have actually just been the Anunnaki's tunnels on the surface of Mars? So therefore they didn't need breathing apparatus every time they walked anywhere. They would have had a vacuum type, enclosure, which makes sense. Martin's actually wrote, seen the tunnels, yeah. So it could have been, I know there's people that say, oh, there's Martians on there, there's Chinese people on there, there's blue people, there's avians. Speaking of avians, the latest episode of Resident Alien, if you guys haven't seen it, you should watch Resident Alien. It's a fun program. Definitely watch it. But the very latest episode has a blue avian in it, which is interesting because blue avians were actually generally mentioned by Corey Goode, who ended up being known as a how do I say this? As fibbing a little bit. So the thing is, this program was probably written before Corey Goode came out and admitted that a lot of the stuff that he talked about was baloney. So it's a shame because obviously this program's got little greys in it and stuff like that. So it's trying to be as close as it can, I guess, within reason. Oh wow, 9:30 already. Thank you, Jane. I close my eyes sometimes and talk. Okay, well, I'm at the bottom anyway, so I will let everyone go. But don't forget, I have a website that you can go watch all my videos, and I point to evidence when I do these videos, unlike other researchers. So my website's ourtruehistory.co.uk. Andrews wrote, watched it, Resident Alien. It's really funny. Yeah, it's a good program, isn't it? Definitely, guys, watch Resident Alien. Do whatever it takes to watch it. They're on season 3 at the moment, and it's just being released weekly. Everyone's saying thank you guys as well. So yeah, you can get to everything from my website, ourtruehistory.co.uk. And don't forget, this Sunday, it's only 2 days now, you get to see the family tree that no one's ever going to come close to. And B, you get to see a video where I prove that the family tree is correct with evidence as best as I can. So look forward to that. It's coming out Sunday, but unfortunately it's on my Patreon page because it took me months and months to do this. And no, I didn't copy anyone else's because they're all wrong, and you'll see they're wrong when you look at mine. And if you just go and just do your tiny little bit of research, if you want, on any of the things that I've done my family tree, hopefully you'll agree with me, and therefore you'll agree that there's no way you could have copied someone else's family tree because they're pathetic compared to his. So I'm hoping that's what you guys will go and do. But either way, it's coming out Sunday, and unfortunately, like I say, it's a couple of £1 on my Patreon page, but I did spend so long, and tomorrow I'm going to spend the whole day working, starting on the, which is probably going to take 3 weeks to edit and everything, the NORSE GODS video as well. So it does, it's not, I don't, I kind of lose money by doing this, but I do it for you guys because you guys are lovely. So Messi's wrote, trust me bro, go to the Patreon. Messi is a Patreon user, and obviously hopefully is enjoying it and not just saying it for a giggle. But yeah, that's nice, thank you. Okay, so yeah, so I'm going to shoot now, but I will catch you again very, very soon. And don't forget, you can get to everything from my Outro History. So if you're interested in pyramids, crop circles, Bigfoots, just type in the top, or you can go watch them in order, which is a chronological order, just by clicking on the tab that says videos, and you can watch them in sets. They're not 1 minute ones, they're in sets of 5 or sets of 50, or or the long ones that's on my Patreon page are edited. They're widescreen on my Patreon page, whereas on TikToks, on my website, they're the portrait ones that I do on TikTok. So, I've got to go and get Clark to say goodbye, haven't I? So, let's go. Right, I just got to walk past the helipad. Right, we're just past the helipad. We're now walking past the swimming pool. The second swimming pool. Don't want you to get mistaken for the first one. And now we're going through the labyrinth. We're just passing the cinema room. Clark, people's asked me for you to, because you've been a good boy tonight, to say hello and goodbye.
Hello, goodbye.
Is that it?
Yeah.
You can say anything else to him? Tell him you've been good today.
I've been good today.
Yeah? Why?
I've been nice.
You've been nice?
Yeah.
Yeah, you haven't come out to argue, have you?
No.
No, you've been a good boy?
Yeah.
Okay. So say night-night to everybody.
Night-night, everyone.
There you go. That's Clark. Now I've got to walk all the way past all those things again. I'll just quickly tell Clark what you guys have just said. Clark, Kerry says much love to you, Clark.
Yeah.
And then message wrote, I love your true short stories. Oh, that's on the Patreon. Thank you. Message wrote, goodbye, Clark. We love you, darling.
Yeah.
Is that he just says yeah? He doesn't really understand, bless him. Amanda's wrote night. Thank you, Amanda. Andrew's wrote, get a good phone protector for his phone next time. Clark, I told him what you did with your phone.
What?
I told him.
Oh.
Yeah. What did you do?
Smash on the floor.
Yeah, why did you smash it? Because you've been...
Stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he's got no phone. Okay.
But he fixed it.
I'm just really... L Blockers wrote Clark is adorable. Oh, bless you. I didn't even know you was listening in, L Block. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so Clark,
Yeah.
Saturday tomorrow.
Oh, yeah?
You know what that means?
What?
It means I got to work
Okay.
on videos for these guys.
Oh.
What are you going to be doing?
I don't know.
You don't know? Maybe a little bit slobbing?
These are hot.
Yeah, you've nicked my food, my old food. He's out now, so I'll have to go. Thank you guys. Take care, and I'll see you again very, very soon. Right, Clark, now they've gone, quick, fire up the helicopter.